Imagine having a president, not of just any country, but the United States of America. The most powerful person, as it's said, in the world. At least the leader of the most powerful country. And imagine they don't know what they're talking about, okay? But they make really aggressive decisions based off of little or no or false information. Oh, wait, you don't have to imagine that. That's what we have. And Trump made that very clear during his Oval Office event where he was signing a bunch of executive orders. And he started talking about placing a 100% tariff on countries that are in BRICS. And he mentioned Spain. 100% tariff on Spain might have to be implemented because of their involvement in BRICS, the Intergovernmental Economic Organization of those few countries. But Spain's not into BRICS. So let's take what is a really aggressive economic, wildly unstable policy. Let's implement such a policy because of Spain's involvement in an organization that they're not in. Oh no. While you watch this, please do click the subscribe button. We'll look at a few moments from this same event.
Thank you, sir.
What can we expect of the countries in NATO that spend the least amount of money, like Spain, France, below the 5%?
Spain is very low. And yet, are they a BRICS nation?
What?
They're a BRICS nation, Spain.
Okay.
You know what a BRICS nation is? You'll figure it out. But, and if the BRICS nations want to do that, that's okay, but we're going to put at least a 100% tariff on the business they do with the United States. You know what the BRICS is, right? You guys know.
Brazil,
You know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah. I think the reason why he keeps asking for confirmation is because he's feeling like something's off, something's not right, but doesn't know what it is. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And this economic alliance does pose a competitive economic risk to us. So there is reason to be concerned and to act accordingly. But he starts talking about policies related to Spain because Spain's involvement in NATO gets brought up. And Trump's like, yeah, okay, well, I guess we could do, interesting that you brought that up. I guess we could throw 100% tariff. Is that cool? Does that answer the question? Reporter just completely backs out and it's quiet because he doesn't know what Trump's saying. But what a wild decision to make on such faulty information. Now, I don't think it's a set in stone decision, but he was sort of floating. And in a different segment today, we'll talk about the tariff stuff that he mentioned at the same event, but we need to dedicate a whole segment to that because we're already seeing all these global reactions that could be rather tragic. But that about sums up Trump's thinking. I'm going to do something really aggressive, really impulsive, based off of incorrect information. And he so often misunderstands the NATO funding debacle when referring to investments in NATO as if he thinks that the United States is owed bills whenever we're talking about the investing in a country's own military, their own self-defense, and what percentage of their GDP they'll invest in their own self-defense. And for NATO to be really strong, they want all the countries to invest a larger amount in their own military, so it's a really strong military alliance. But that's different than Trump saying, we're owed money, we're owed these bills, they're not paying their bills to us, is the way he often articulates it. Then this whole event was kind of strange because Trump would live react to the executive order that he was signing as if it's the first he's hearing of it.
I said, I can live with most of them. They took a very safe route. They don't have any bad ones up there.
Withdrawing from
What is this one?
Withdrawing from the World Health Organization, sir.
Ooh, that's a big one.
Ooh, fun. Withdrawing from the World Health Organization. What could possibly go wrong there? It's not like the end of my presidency was devastated by my own mismanaging of a global health crisis. Who needs him? Trump knows better in his own mind. Then again, another example of just the dynamic that I found bizarre.
A lot of them, not all of them.
Protecting women from radical gender ideologies.
Ooh.
Mr. President, going back to the World Health Organization, you were the president.
These are your executive orders, dude. Why are you reacting like that? And then we talked about this in a different segment, but just to follow up on it, remember at this event, this is where Trump officially signed the pardons of January 6th rioters and said to the world, even if you engage in seditious conspiracy like someone like the Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio, you should be freed. You should be freed before the full sentence is served, and we should avoid the full extent of the justice that was mandated because you did it in the name of me.
Should there be punishment for the people who assaulted law enforcement officers that day?
Well, I will say this, they've been in jail for a long time already. I see murderers in this country get 2 years, 1 year, and maybe no time. So they've already been in jail for a long time. These people have been destroyed.
He does this thing when he seems confused or nervous, where he sort of, I can't explain it for our podcast listeners, but clenches his jaw a little bit. Look at when he's trying to remember what he's thinking, but he completely forgets what he's talking about with the brick stuff. I'll just play it on mute. Watch as he talks. There's this sort of jaw clench because he can tell that he might be completely off base and forgetting what BRICS is and who is in it. And there's the jaw clench. Kind of a strange, it's so interesting. Like he's breathing out of his mouth, trying to oxidate his brain to beg the brain cells to do a little bit more work than they're doing at that present point. Quickly, just to go through some of the summarizations of the hundreds of executive orders he signed. The New York Times reports Trump's executive orders reversing Biden's policies and attacking the deep state. And if we go through, you have my computer being cray, but then you have the federal workforce freeze on federal hiring. You have all sorts of things to help Trump remove people more easily, and rules changes and getting the people that he'd like in there. And then immigration and the border. He's completely barring asylum for people newly arriving at the southern border. He's trying to end birthright citizenship, a constitutional principle, and suspending the refugee admissions program for the time being, and different policies there. Of course, going after DEI, getting rid of any diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. We talked about the male and female thing. And I saw someone tweet out that this Trump's federal recognition that there's they say two genders. I've made the specification, but no one ever seems to care. Male and female, we're technically talking about sex, and then man, woman, gender, but that gets all abstracted. But anyways, they say that there was one right-winger that was saying that now means under the law there aren't any trans people. But even if you're establishing that there's not like third, fourth, fifth genders, right? Which I don't assert. I have, explained that you have man, woman, and then people who don't identify as either, I guess being the non-binary category. But it doesn't really make sense to say establishing and saying proudly in front of the world, there's only two genders. Woohoo! Necessarily means transitioning between them in your identity or expression is not possible. But an obsession there, as we talked about from MAGA, and different removals of protections. You have tariff initiatives, 25% tariff starting February 1st, Trump said. We'll talk about that more later. You have energy and environment things like withdrawing from the Paris Agreement and other rollbacks on Biden-era environmental policies, then TikTok-related bans, and we'll get into that as we go along. Here is Trump being asked about Dictator on day one joke that he made.
President Trump.
That'll change Venezuela quite a bit.
President Trump, there was a lot of concern about this during the campaign. A question that only works today. Are you a dictator on day one?
No. I can't imagine even being called that. No, I believe in the sanctity of the vote. The Democrats didn't because they cheated like dogs, but I believe in the sanctity.
Once again there, Trump's perception of dogs being confusing, and also his incorrect perception and dishonest framework about our elections being that the Democrats are cheating to steal the election from him. And he does say this, which could bother some of his followers.
General.
This is an executive order. Sorry, sir.
I'm fine with legal immigration. I like it. We need people, and I'm absolutely fine with it. We want to have it. We need it because we're going to have a lot of companies coming in to avoid tariffs. You know, if you don't want tariffs, all you have to do is build your plant in the U.S. So we're going to have a lot of workers coming in.
Yeah, and I agree we need a lot of lawful immigration, but that's kind of what the strife is within MAGA, that a lot of them feel betrayed by Trump for wanting that, and so it'll be fascinating to watch as that plays out. I'm sorry, so many clips here just trying to get through so you know how this event went without having to watch the whole thing. Elon Musk was brought up. Is he going to get an office in the West Wing?
Want to get it done.
This is an order creating and implementing the Department of Governmental Efficiency, known as DOGE.
Okay, that's a big one.
Is Elon Musk going to get a West Wing office?
No, he's getting an office for about 20 people that we're hiring to make sure that these get implemented.
All right. Not going to be at the White House, apparently, but we'll see if that progresses. Now, I mentioned the TikTok ban. Here's Trump explaining what he's doing. Kind of confusing what he's proposing, but we'll try to decipher.
Depends on the deal. I mean, I may not do the deal or I may do the deal. TikTok is worthless. Worthless if I don't approve it. It has to close. I learned that from the people that own it. If I don't do the deal, it's worthless. Worth nothing. If I do the deal, it's worth maybe $1 trillion. $1 trillion. So if I do the deal I'm talking about doing it for the United States. If I do the deal for the United States, then I think we should get half.
The TikTok CEO.
In other words, I think the U.S. should be entitled to get half of TikTok. And congratulations, TikTok has a good partner. And that would be worth, could be $500 billion or so.
Yeah, I don't understand what it is that he's proposing there. A joint venture between a U.S. company and TikTok or ByteDance, but how would ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok, facilitate that in a way where they would have control, but the issues with why the ban happened wouldn't be in place? So then TikTok gets severed as its own company, detached from ByteDance, but then is in a joint venture with a U.S. company? Or is he saying the U.S. government should engage in a joint venture with TikTok? I don't exactly understand the logistics of what he's proposing there. Here's more.
Did he say that he's open to that idea?
Who?
The CEO of TikTok is around.
Oh, I think he'd probably like it. Because he's got nothing. They really have nothing. It's passed in Congress. It gives the president a right to make a deal or to close it. And we have 90 days to make that decision. But I could see making a deal where the U.S. gets 50% of TikTok.
Yeah, so that again there. So that was his executive order signing. He's desperately trying to roll back many of the achievements of the Biden administration. The stuff that's sort of legislated already is going to be a lot more difficult. There are things that I think secretly he's excited to take credit for, as we've talked about before, the infrastructure investments being one of them. But he is trying with executive orders to do what he can to roll back Biden-era policies. And then he's showing the world how little he cares about international alliances, at least with our historic allies, or initiatives like the World Health Organization, and then, of course, the big pardon for January 6ers. And then also throwing into that, and we're going to be diving in as we go through more and more of the executive orders and more reporting about it. Oh, and this one. Oh, I missed talking about this one, and we'll do that. But one of them that shows just a really brazen attitude that now states are already suing the federal government over when it comes to the Constitution is the 14th Amendment and birthright citizenship, and him saying that being born here shouldn't be necessarily what allows you to be a citizen, this pertaining to children of undocumented immigrants. And just sort of, we're not going to recognize that. Constitution be damned. Frightening. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Support the show, get the members only bonus show by clicking that join button below.